My name is Jennifer Martinez, and at 29 years old I thought I had everything figured out. I was a senior marketing coordinator at Reynolds and Associates, one of Boston's most prestigious consulting firms, and I had just learned about the opening for creative director, my absolute dream position. What I didn't expect was for my younger sister Maya to swoop in and steal not just the job, but my entire future at the company. 2 years later, when I walked into that conference room as her new boss, the look on her face was worth every sleepless night I'd endured to get there. But before I tell you how Maya's confident smirk turned to pure shock when she realized who was conducting her performance review, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button to join my journey. Growing up in a middle-class family in Hartford, Connecticut, Maya and I had always been competitive. Our parents, Maria and Robert Martinez, both worked as teachers and instilled in us the importance of education and hard work. But where I was methodical and strategic, Maya was charming and spontaneous. She could talk her way into anything, while I preferred to earn my way through dedication and skill. After graduating from UConn with a degree in marketing, I landed an entry-level position at Reynolds and Associates. It wasn't glamorous, organizing client files, scheduling meetings, and making countless copies, but I was determined to climb the corporate ladder. For 3 years, I worked overtime, took on extra projects, and slowly built relationships with senior staff. I earned my promotion to senior marketing coordinator through pure determination, often staying until 8 p.m. when others left at 5. Maya, meanwhile, had bounced between jobs since graduating from Boston University with a communications degree. She'd worked briefly at a startup that folded, then a small PR firm where she clashed with management. When she moved back to Boston and needed work, I mentioned that Reynolds occasionally hired freelancers for overflow projects. I thought I was helping my sister get back on her feet. The creative director position opened when Sandra Walsh announced her retirement after 15 years with the company. This wasn't just any job, it was the role I'd been quietly preparing for since my first day. I'd shadowed Sandra whenever possible, volunteered for creative projects outside my job description, and even completed a graphic design certification on my own time. My portfolio was filled with successful campaigns I'd contributed to, including the Meridian Bank rebranding that had won our firm industry recognition. When I scheduled my meeting with Mr. Reynolds to discuss the position, I felt confident. He'd always been supportive of my growth, frequently praising my work ethic and strategic thinking. The conversation went better than expected. He acknowledged my contributions, reviewed my portfolio approvingly, and mentioned that he'd been impressed with my initiative in pursuing additional training. "Jennifer," he said, leaning back in his leather chair, "you've certainly earned consideration for this role. I'd like you to prepare a presentation for next week's partners meeting." I left his office elated, already mentally planning my presentation. That evening, I called Maya to share my excitement. "Jen, that's amazing," she said, and I could hear genuine enthusiasm in her voice. "Creative director at Reynolds? You've worked so hard for this. What's the presentation about?" I explained that I needed to propose a complete rebranding strategy for a hypothetical client, demonstrating both strategic thinking and creative vision. Maya asked detailed questions about the company culture, the partners' preferences, and the type of work that impressed them most. I answered freely, grateful for her interest and support. The next week, I arrived at the office early to finalize my presentation. As I walked past Mr. Reynolds' office, I noticed him in what appeared to be an intense conversation with someone. Through the glass, I could see a woman with dark hair pulled back in a sleek bun, wearing a sharp black blazer. Something about her posture seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it from behind. 2 hours later, I received an email that changed everything. The partners' meeting had been moved up, and I was to present at 2 p.m. instead of the originally scheduled 4 p.m. I spent the morning making final adjustments to my proposal, practicing my talking points, and preparing for the questions the partners typically asked. At 1:45 p.m., I gathered my materials and headed to the conference room. As I approached the frosted glass doors, I could hear voices inside. The partners were already assembled. I knocked and entered, my confident smile faltering when I saw who was standing at the presentation screen. Maya. My sister turned toward the door, her face showing a flicker of something, surprise? Guilt, before settling into a composed expression. "Jennifer," she said smoothly, I was just finishing up. The room fell silent. Mr. Reynolds cleared his throat. Jennifer, I believe you've met our new creative director, Maya Martinez. The words hit me like a physical blow. New creative director. Maya Martinez. My sister had somehow interviewed for and secured the position I'd been working toward for years, and I was finding out about it at the exact moment I'd expected to be presenting my own candidacy. I don't understand, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Maya's presentation materials were still displayed on the screen, a complete rebranding proposal that looked remarkably similar to the strategy I'd outlined to her just days earlier. Same color palette, similar font choices, nearly identical tagline concepts. She'd taken our conversation and transformed it into her own winning presentation. Mr. Reynolds gestured to an empty chair. Please, sit. Maya was just explaining how she developed this innovative approach to client rebranding. I sat mechanically, watching my sister present ideas that were, in many cases, word for word identical to what I'd shared with her. She spoke with confidence and charm, fielding questions with ease. The partners were clearly impressed, nodding and taking notes as she outlined implementation strategies. How did you come up with this particular color scheme? Asked Margaret Chen, one of the senior partners. It came to me during a brainstorming session, Maya replied without hesitation. I was thinking about how to convey both innovation and trustworthiness, and these combinations seemed to capture that balance perfectly. Those were my exact words from our phone conversation. After Maya finished and the partners dismissed us both, she approached me in the hallway. Jen, I can explain. Can you? I interrupted, my voice shaking with anger and betrayal. Can you explain how you interviewed for a position I told you I was pursuing? How you used my ideas in your presentation? How you didn't mention any of this when I called you last week? Maya's composure cracked slightly. I saw the job posting online. I didn't know you were applying until after I'd already interviewed. And those ideas, we brainstormed together. I thought we were just talking. I was preparing for my own presentation, Maya. You knew exactly what you were doing. Look, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, I needed this job. You've been successful here for years. Can't you be happy for me? I stared at my sister, seeing a stranger. Happy for you? You stole my dream job using my own ideas, and you want me to be happy? The next few weeks were a nightmare. Maya started her new role immediately, moving into the corner office I'd imagined would be mine. She implemented the strategies from her presentation, my strategies, to great acclaim. Colleagues congratulated her on her innovative thinking and fresh perspective. Meanwhile, I remained in my same position, watching my sister receive credit for work that had originated from my mind. The office dynamic became unbearable. Maya would pass my desk each morning with a bright, "Good morning, Jen," as if nothing had happened. She'd include me in team meetings where she'd present her ideas, making eye contact with me as if daring me to challenge her. The worst part was how naturally she seemed to fit into the role, her charisma winning over clients and colleagues alike. After a month of this torture, I made a decision that would change everything. I submitted my resignation. Mr. Reynolds called me into his office immediately. Jennifer, I'm disappointed to receive this. You're a valuable member of our team. I feel it's time for me to explore other opportunities, I said, keeping my voice professional despite the turmoil inside. Is this about Maya's promotion? I understand there might be some family dynamics at play. I met his gaze steadily. I simply feel I've reached the limit of my growth potential here. He nodded slowly. I respect your decision, though I hope you'll reconsider. Your institutional knowledge and work ethic would be difficult to replace. My last day at Reynolds was surreal. Maya organized a farewell lunch that felt more like a victory celebration. She gave a speech about family supporting family and new beginnings for everyone. I smiled and accepted the well wishes, but inside I was already planning my next move. The severance package gave me 3 months to figure out my future. I spent the first week wallowing in self-pity and anger, but gradually a plan began to form. If I was going to rebuild my career, I was going to do it right. I enrolled in an intensive digital marketing program at MIT, using my savings to cover the tuition. While other students were fresh graduates, I brought years of practical experience that set me apart. During the 6-month program, I networked aggressively, attending every industry event and connecting with professionals across Boston's marketing landscape. I discovered a small but growing firm called Velocity Partners that specialized in digital transformation for traditional businesses. Their approach was innovative and data-driven, exactly the kind of environment where I could thrive. I started at Velocity as a senior account manager, a step down from my previous role but with significantly more growth potential. The company had only 12 employees, led by founder and CEO Patricia Kim, a former Google executive who'd left to start her own firm. Patricia valued results over politics, something I found refreshing after my experience at Reynolds. My first major project was repositioning a family-owned restaurant chain for the digital age. I developed a comprehensive strategy that included social media overhaul, loyalty program redesign, and targeted advertising campaigns. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. The client saw a 40% increase in online orders within 3 months. Patricia pulled me aside after the presentation to the restaurant's ownership group. "That was exceptional work, Jennifer. I'm impressed by your strategic thinking and execution." "Thank you," I replied. "I'm passionate about helping businesses evolve." "How do you feel about taking on more responsibility?" "We're growing faster than anticipated, and I need someone who can handle multiple high-stakes accounts." Within 6 months, I was promoted to account director, managing 3 major clients and supervising 2 junior associates. The work was challenging but fulfilling, and I found myself energized in ways I hadn't felt at Reynolds. Every success was genuinely mine, earned through my own efforts and creativity. Meanwhile, Maya's career appeared to be thriving. Through mutual connections, I heard updates about her work at Reynolds. She'd successfully launched several campaigns and was being considered for additional responsibilities. Part of me hoped she would excel, if only to justify the disruption she'd caused in my life. 18 months after leaving Reynolds, I received an unexpected call from Patricia. "Jennifer, I have a proposition for you. I've been approached by a larger firm about a potential acquisition. They're interested in our client roster and methodology, but they want to ensure key personnel would transition with the deal." "What kind of firm?" I asked, though something in her tone made me suspect I already knew. "Reynolds and Associates. They're looking to expand their digital capabilities and believe our approach would complement their traditional consulting services." My heart raced. "Are you considering it?" "I'm intrigued. They've offered substantial compensation packages for senior staff, and the resources they could provide would allow us to scale significantly. But I need to know if you'd be interested in returning to Reynolds in a leadership capacity." "A leadership capacity?" The irony wasn't lost on me. "What kind of leadership role?" I asked. "They want to create a new digital strategy division, reporting directly to the partners. Whoever heads it would oversee all digital initiatives and have authority over traditional marketing staff when digital components are involved." I was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications. "That would mean managing existing Reynolds staff?" "Yes, including their current creative director. They've made it clear that the new division head would have authority over all marketing personnel. Maya would report to me." The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. After discussing terms and expectations, I accepted the position. The transition was carefully planned. Velocity would be acquired by Reynolds, with Patricia staying on as a consultant while I led the new digital strategy division. My salary would nearly double, and I'd have a team of 8 people, including several former Velocity colleagues. The announcement was made on a Tuesday morning. I arrived at Reynolds, my old workplace, as the newly appointed director of digital strategy. The same building, the same lobby, but now I was returning with authority I'd never held before. My first order of business was conducting individual meetings with all marketing staff to assess their skills and discuss integration plans. I scheduled Maya's meeting for Thursday afternoon, wanting to settle in before facing that particular challenge. When Thursday arrived, I sat in my new office. Ironically, the same corner office that had once been Sandra Walsh's, the one I'd dreamed of occupying years earlier. At 2 p.m., there was a knock on my door. "Come in," I called, not looking up from my computer. "Hi, I'm here for the 2 o'clock meeting about the digital integration." Maya's voice cut off abruptly. I looked up to see her standing in my doorway, her face cycling through expressions of confusion, recognition, and shock. "Hello, Maya," I said calmly, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. "Please, have a seat." She remained frozen for several seconds before slowly walking forward and sitting down. Jennifer. I didn't realize, when they said the new digital strategy director. "You weren't expecting me," I finished. I can understand the surprise. Maya's professional composure, always her strongest asset, was clearly struggling. "How long have you been? When did you?" "I joined Velocity Partners about 18 months ago. We were acquired by Reynolds specifically to launch this new division." I kept my voice neutral, professional. "I understand you've been doing well in your role as creative director." Yes, it's been challenging but rewarding." She was clearly trying to regain her footing. "The campaigns we've launched have been successful, and client satisfaction is up." "I've reviewed your work," I said, opening a folder on my desk. The Morrison account campaign showed strong results, and the Brightwater project exceeded engagement goals by 15%. Maya's surprise was evident. She'd expected confrontation, not professional evaluation. "However," I continued, "I've also noticed that several of your strategies haven't evolved with current digital trends. The Harrison Industries campaign, for example, relied heavily on traditional media placement without integrating social media or content marketing components. I felt that their demographic was more traditional," Maya said, her voice uncertain. "According to the data, 67% of their target audience is active on social media platforms. That's a significant missed opportunity." I pulled up a presentation on my screen. "Moving forward, all creative campaigns will need to incorporate digital components. That's where my team comes in." The power dynamic had shifted completely. Maya, who had once taken my ideas and presented them as her own, was now sitting across from me as my subordinate, defending her work. "I want to be clear about reporting structure," I said. "All marketing initiatives will now be reviewed by the Digital Strategy Division before implementation. Creative concepts will need to demonstrate how they integrate with digital platforms and measurement tools." Maya nodded slowly. "I understand. I'm not here to micromanage your creative process," I continued. "But I am here to ensure that everything we do for clients reflects current best practices and delivers measurable results." For the next 30 minutes, I outlined new processes, collaboration expectations, and performance metrics. Maya listened, occasionally asking questions, but mostly absorbing the reality of our new professional relationship. As the meeting concluded, she hesitated before standing. "Jennifer, I want to say." "Maya," I interrupted gently, "what happened before is in the past. We're colleagues now, and I expect our working relationship to be professional and productive. Can you commit to that?" She nodded. "Yes. Absolutely." "Good. I'm scheduling a team meeting for next week to introduce the new collaborative processes. Please prepare a presentation on your current active campaigns." After she left, I sat back in my chair, reflecting on the strange turn my career had taken. 2 years ago, I'd been devastated by Maya's betrayal. Now, I was her boss, overseeing the very department she'd thought she'd conquered. The following weeks established a new rhythm. Maya approached our working relationship with careful professionalism, never referencing our personal history during business discussions. She began incorporating digital elements into her campaigns, consulting with my team on strategy and implementation. Her initial resistance gave way to genuine curiosity about digital marketing techniques. During a campaign review meeting 3 weeks later, Maya presented a comprehensive strategy for a new client that seamlessly integrated traditional creative elements with digital engagement tactics. The presentation was polished, strategic, and innovative. "This is excellent work," I said after she finished. The content calendar approach and the influencer partnership strategy show real understanding of how these channels work together. Maya's smile was genuine. I've been learning a lot from your team. Marcus helped me understand how to track engagement across platforms, and Sarah showed me how to optimize content for different audiences. It was the first time since I'd returned that she seemed relaxed in my presence. After the meeting, she approached my desk. Jennifer, do you have a minute? Of course. I wanted to thank you for being professional about everything. I know this situation could have been awkward, but you've handled it with more grace than I deserved. I looked at my sister, seeing something I hadn't seen in years: humility. We both made choices, Maya. I chose to focus on building something better. I realize now that what I did was wrong. Not just professionally, but personally. I took something you'd worked for and told myself I deserved it. She paused. I was jealous of your success here, and instead of working harder, I took a shortcut that hurt you. I appreciate you saying that, I replied. It doesn't change what happened, but it helps explain it. I hope someday we can be sisters again, not just colleagues. I considered her words carefully. Maybe we can. But that will take time. Maya nodded. I understand. And I want you to know, I'm proud of what you've accomplished. This division you've built is impressive, and the way you've elevated everyone's work, it's what I should have been doing all along. 6 months later, our combined department had become the most successful division at Reynolds. Client satisfaction scores were at an all-time high, and we'd won 3 industry awards for integrated marketing campaigns. Maya had evolved into a skilled collaborator, her creativity enhanced by digital strategy rather than constrained by it. During our annual performance review, I was able to give Maya genuinely positive feedback. Your growth this year has been remarkable, I told her. You've not only adapted to new processes but improved them. The client feedback on your work has been exceptional. Thank you, she said. I've never felt more challenged or more supported at the same time. That's what good teamwork looks like, I replied. The real test came when Maya was approached by a competitor offering her a creative director position with a significant salary increase. She came to me before making any decisions. I wanted to let you know about this opportunity, she said, placing the offer letter on my desk. It's a good position, but I'm not sure I want to leave. I reviewed the offer. It was substantial, and the company was well regarded. This is a strong offer, Maya. Why the hesitation? I'm learning more here than I ever have. And for the first time, I feel like my work is part of something bigger rather than just my own success. That's a mature perspective. Plus, she added with a slight smile, working with you has made me a better professional. I'm not ready to give that up. Maya declined the offer, choosing to stay at Reynolds and continue developing her skills within our integrated team structure. A year after my return, Patricia Kim visited our offices to see how the integration was progressing. She pulled me aside after observing our team meeting. I have to say, Jennifer, I'm impressed. Not just with the business results, but with how you've handled the personal dynamics. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, initially, I admitted. But I realized that success isn't about revenge or proving a point. It's about creating value and building something sustainable. Your sister seems to have embraced the new structure. She has. Maya is actually quite talented when she's collaborative rather than competitive. Patricia nodded thoughtfully. You've both grown from this experience. That's the mark of true leadership. As I reflect on this journey, I realize that Maya's betrayal, as painful as it was, ultimately led me to a better path. At Reynolds originally, I would have been limited by existing structures and traditional approaches. At Velocity, I learned to think differently and develop skills I never would have acquired in a traditional consulting environment. Returning to Reynolds as a leader rather than just an employee gave me the opportunity to reshape how the company approached client service. Maya's actions forced me to rebuild my career from the ground up, but that rebuilding process made me stronger and more capable. The relationship between Maya and me continues to evolve. We're not as close as we once were, but there's mutual respect and genuine collaboration. She's become one of my most reliable team members, and I've watched her grow into a more thoughtful and strategic professional. Sometimes the most difficult experiences teach us the most valuable lessons. Maya learned that shortcuts and betrayals ultimately limit your growth, while I learned that setbacks can be redirected into comebacks if you're willing to do the work. Have you ever had a professional setback that ultimately led to something better? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please subscribe and share with someone who might need to hear that career challenges can become career opportunities. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding on your own terms. Leave a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories of professional resilience and unexpected second chances.